We got Charlie Gasparino here. This is not a market-moving event. I think it goes on. Could it be if it drags on for a long time?
Yeah. Listen, if she had her way, meaning Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they'd want like no trespassing signs. I mean, that's really where they're going with this whole thing. And the president has a base to worry about. You do get the feeling, though, and I think this is some of the underlying volatility in the market, that investors believe that the lunatics control the insane asylum, essentially on both sides. I mean, on one hand, you got to see the raft of stuff that came out of the Democratic Congress today, the proposals, eliminating the Electoral College, Ocasio-Cortez. Why anybody gives her credence is beyond me. This is a freshman's rep that, barely knows where the Capitol building is.
She wants a top rate of 70%.
Yeah, I mean, she has no idea about economics. Just go back and listen to her musings, which are idiotic. And just some of the other stuff. I mean, when somebody called...
So you're not a fan?
Somebody called Trump an MFer. We should indict... I mean, this is like really sick on that end. And then in the Trump side... All you have to do is listen to his musings on Afghanistan yesterday. They were downright idiotic. I mean, they missed... I mean, listen, he thinks that the Soviet Union collapsed, not because of its economy, sclerosis in the economy, which everybody knows is true, because they invaded Afghanistan. Then he said Russia had a right to invade it. I mean, this was like insane. So markets and investors are looking at this.
But they're miles apart on this, aren't they?
And by the way, in the old days, when you had Newt Gingrich on one side, who was considered a rabble-rouser, and Bill Clinton on the other side, who, say what you want, that was a normalcy. They even closed the government at that point. Contrast that to the people running the show now. Well, those two champions worked
for welfare and did a lot of things together. They did a lot of very constructive things.
But this is more insane than Obama and the Republican Congress. I mean, just both sides really out there, and the markets are reflecting that. But I would say
I'm wondering whether it's that rabid part of the Democratic wing that puts Nancy Pelosi's feet, and by extension, Chuck Schumer's feet to the fire.
Absolutely.
Don't give an inch.
Absolutely. And, impeach him and do whatever you can.
And the president's base equally adamant about not budging an inch on the wall.
Yeah, and, what's fascinating about the bases is just how out of touch with, if you listen to them, they make no sense on half the things they talk about. The other thing I will say is this, and I'll tell you, this is where these market-moving events, and you listen to commentators, we cover it, everybody covers it like baseball. You have to, right? But for the average investor, just kind of zone it out a little bit, because there are so many known unknowns here. We don't know if we're going to get a trade deal. We don't know if interest rates are going to go markedly higher. We actually don't know if the global economy is going to slow enough to screw us over and impact corporate earnings. Stocks trade on two things: corporate earnings and largely interest rates, whatever affects either of them. We don't know where they're going. So, yeah, it's nice that we're up 700 points. And I wrote a whole column about how Democrats were popping champagne bottles Christmas Eve and how it was stupid to do that, because you just don't know where this is going. It is really, we're in uncharted territory with fiscal and monetary policy right now. And so it's just funny watching us, CNBC, sort of go through this. We have to cover this.
You have to cover it, but I always like to remind people, you might have heard this story once or twice or 3,000 times, but I always relay the story that I keep a map of the market from when it first started, and that market goes up.
Generally, but there's a lot of this.
But the closer you get to it, the more jagged through oil crises, assassination scandals.
And that doesn't mean you keep your money in the market.
Absolutely.
Because you can go insolvent by doing that.
That you need that longer term perspective, not to get too caught up in it.
And just so you know, we try to like pick apart what's going on here, but we don't know where interest rates are going. We don't know about the globe.
I know exactly.
Nostradamus?
Yes.
Kavutodamus?
I don't want to share that with you.
Kavutodamus?
I'm going to put it on my podcast. What is a podcast, by the way?
Everybody's got one now. It's like this millennial thing. But, I was on one for NPR had me on one, which was very informative.
Okay, I'm sure it was, as you always are. He's the best. There's a reason why he's an institution. We want to put him in one. All right, Charlie Kessler, I can't. I love him.